After that bad man took down the Cowboys on Sunday with some heroics, Max Kellerman came with a strong comparison for Aaron Rodgers. Take a listen.
Aaron Rodgers can overcome anything. The best defense in the league, the best team in the NFC. He is the closest thing to Michael Jordan I've seen on a football field in the sense that he can take a team with less than and make it better than it ought to be because he is unstoppable.
So, Max compared Aaron Rodgers to Michael Jordan, and somebody who agrees with him, another New Yorker, is Adam Shine, who wrote a column for NFL.com essentially saying that regardless of the lopsided ring count, Jordan has 6, of course, Rodgers has 1. That's not the focus. The point is that these two do their thing better than anyone else in the history of their respective sports. Max, is this Rodgers-Jordan comparison fair?
Sure. First of all, when you say someone's the Michael Jordan of anything, what you mean is they're the best who ever did it.
Okay.
That's what you're saying. But just because you're the best who ever did it doesn't necessarily make you Michael Jordan. They're the best who ever did lots of things, and they're still not the Michael Jordan of the thing that they do. And the NFL football is the kind of sport where it's hard to imagine a Jordan ever emerging, even at the quarterback position, maybe especially at the quarterback position, where you need to be able to not only have that competitive next level stuff emotionally and mentally, but you need to be able to physically impose yourself on a game where it seems impossible to physically do so. I remember watching Michael Vick early on. I remember again, I think it was against the Vikings where he accelerates and the two guys knock themselves out. And Atlanta looked really good for a while, and you thought maybe we're watching the Michael Jordan of football. Didn't work out that way. And Andrew Luck and Cam Newton, when they came out, maybe we can see that next thing. It hasn't quite worked out that way for any one of those guys. But Aaron Rodgers has physically imposed himself and competitively imposed himself in the NFL as the closest thing to a Michael Jordan. As I mentioned yesterday, he can make a team with less than it should have in order to be so successful, compete on an extremely high level, higher than they should, not just because he's making everyone better, but because he can impose himself on the game. Stephen A., mentally, psychologically, and physically. Yes, Jordan had 6 rings. Rodgers has 1. If it ends like that, it'll look like a foolish comparison. But you tell me another football player at the quarterback position who has even been in the conversation like this. Could he be the Michael Jordan of football?
Well, first of all, I don't have to, because I'm the one that said he's a bad man. So I have nothing to confirm. I have nothing to prove in that regard. What I would say to you is that I'm diametrically opposed to the comparison, but not because of the individuals, but because of the sport itself. When I think of Aaron Rodgers, I think he's absolutely phenomenal. Whether he's skating inside or outside the pocket, the way he dances in the pocket and makes things happen, the way he scrambles out of the pocket to his left or his right and is still able to make things happen. The throws that he makes, particularly the 36-yarder to Jared Cook, that's one of the all-time great passes. I put it right up there with Eli's pass to Mario Manningham in the Super Bowl against the Patriots back in 2010 or so. I think about 2011 rather. I think about things like that, and it resonates with me. But the reason why I avoid calling a quarterback or anybody else in football that Michael Jordan is because when all was said and done, Michael Jordan could say, give me the ball and move the hell out the way. Aaron Rodgers still has to hope that Geronimo Allison, to Richard Rodgers, to Ty Montgomery, to a Randall Cobb, to a Devontae Adams can catch the pass. Don't get me wrong, it's not his fault. Like, let's say, for example, Jared Cook dropped that pass. Just work with me here. Let's say, for example, that Jared Cook dropped that pass. All right, we'll be like, damn, that was a great throw by Aaron Rodgers. How could he drop that pass? And we'd move on. With Jordan, you don't get to do that.
I think you're taking that a little bit literally.
But I am. No.
You don't like the comparison regardless of who it is.
That's why I said it's the sport, it's not the individual. Because what I'm saying to you is that Michael Jordan gave it to John Paxson, one NBA Finals victory. He gave it to Steve Kerr, another. But you know why he's Michael Jordan? Because we remember the flu game against Utah and what he did. We remember when he dropped a double nickel on the Knicks after everybody was complaining about him gambling in Atlantic City. We remember those individual exploits where it didn't matter what other 9 dudes were on the court with him, 4 with him, 5 against him. He could do it, whereas in football, you usually have to depend on somebody else.
But that's why I hear what you're saying. But that's why it shines a spotlight even more intense on Aaron Rodgers' greatness. Because if you have a crew in the NBA, the best player in the world, if he has a crew, he's going to win the finals. That's how it works. You know, with rare exception, that's how it works. If LeBron James has championship caliber talent around him, he's going to go all the way. It's not the way it works in football. You can have the best quarterback on the most talented team. They might lose because it's one and done. And, you know, any given Sunday, or the case may be. But in the NBA, this is, by the way, same thing in the tournament, college tournament. One and done, best team doesn't always win. In the NBA, given that basketball is not probabilistic fundamentally, it's deterministic.
Yeah.
Best team wins. A best-of-7 series will produce the winner, but that even highlights Aaron Rodgers even more because he's not working with that much right now. We already know the best team doesn't necessarily win, and yet he's the closest thing we've ever seen in the NFL at quarterback to give him the ball and get out of the way. He makes receivers better.
Right,
he makes
now,
everybody better.
The best ever? Or right now?
We're not talking about the greatest of all time or the most accomplished. Tom Brady is more accomplished. Joe Montana is more accomplished. That's inextricably tied to their team, their coach, their offensive line.
But you were saying Jordan, when you use the comparison, it's for somebody the best ever. Is he the best ever?
He is the best I have ever seen. Yes, I believe Aaron Rodgers is playing quarterback at a level that has never been played before.
I think, and I said this before, from a talent perspective, Aaron Rodgers is the greatest quarterback I've ever seen in my life. The Green Bay Packers don't win 3 games this season without Aaron Rodgers if they didn't have Aaron Rodgers as quarterback. So I get what you're saying. But again, when we talk about, we constantly talk about the Michael Jordan of this, that, or the third. We have to understand that Michael Jordan could individually and single-handedly take over with no help. Because there were times where I watched the Chicago Bulls, at least offensively, not defensively, of course, but offensively.
So you don't think quarterbacks can take over a game? I understand they're reliant on other positions.
That's all I mean by that. They're reliant. I'm telling you right now.
That's what we're really talking about, Stephen A. I think that's the crux. That's really.
I got it.
That's the point of this is that there's a reason that to this date, there's never been a Michael Jordan. Who's the Michael Jordan of football history? Jim Brown? There's always an argument about that.
But what I'm saying is...
Now maybe one's emerging.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is because of the sport itself, it can't happen. I literally saw Michael Jordan, just like I saw a Kobe, just like I saw other individuals literally, individually take over, and everybody else was just standing around spectating. Aaron Rodgers,
it's a different sport.
You got her exactly.
Okay,
that's why I don't do it.
Understood. That said, with that as the premise that it's a different sport and you can't exactly have Jordan, is Aaron Rodgers then the closest thing we've seen to it? Because you ask anyone,
now,
who's the Michael
Peyton
Jordan
Manning was at one time?
I guess, but if you take this Rodgers or that Peyton?
Well, I'm saying, to me, I would take Rodgers because I love Rodgers and I love his overall game.
He can move.
But I saw Peyton Manning literally with this and how he would pick defenses apart.
In the playoffs.
The Colts at one time with the Colts. When they won a championship, they beat Chicago. They beat New England in the AFC championship game.
Rex Grossman in the rain.
No, but they beat Tom Brady and the Patriots in the AFC championship game.
Yes.
The lopsided ring count, though, still hurts him. In my humble opinion, I take Tom Brady. But that is for another day. Let's get into Aaron Rodgers in some family.